had served its purpose of destroying the re-election possibilities of a corrupt governor, Marvin Griffin. But nobody in the political power structure of the state wanted to risk continuing to investigate others. It was unthinkable at that time, and I fear it still may be. Here are some short snapshots of corrupt practices in Georgia at mid-20th century. A powerful and despotic county judge also owned a business that sold his own county more gasoline than all its vehicles and equipment could possibly use in a whole year. He became the first and only judge impeached, convicted, and disbarred in the state. Every single county official in another county but one was found to be, by an audit, to be involved in some means of using their office for personal gain. But there was one honest public official. This honest public official, who was the county attorney, a few years later elevated to prosecutor of bootleggers and other criminals, was blown to bits in his driveway by a bomb attached to his automobile ignition. We kill people just like you do. Don't think that terrorism, don't think that evil is limited to any one place on the earth. It happens everywhere. And there are bad people everywhere. And there are people that resort to violence. I described this guy as the only honest man in this county. And they killed their only honest man. A county commissioner contracted his own construction company with state funds to build roads in his own county. Upon exposure and audit, he was driven from office and convicted, only to be freed later by a corrupt judge. Several years later, he ran for office again and was re-elected by a forgiving electorate. Memories are short when it comes to corruption. A tractor dealer created scores of fictitious companies to bid against each other on state procurements, where through collusion with the assistant state purchasing officer, no other companies except his received requests to bid. He was bidding against himself. Finally, he turned state's evidence reluctantly, but never admitted guilt, though hundreds of documents signed by him bidding against himself were proven. He served only a limited prison term. A tractor dealer, it's the same one. The governor's brother, who I mentioned, to elaborate a bit, received monthly checks from a major state supplier. He was indicted, tried, and found not guilty through the brilliance of an astute defense lawyer and a gullible jury. You know what happened to him? He was later elected to the state legislature, and I served with him in that legislature. Nice guy. He's absolutely corrupt. Numerous officials enriched themselves legally by buying undeveloped property at intersections where major highways were to be constructed. Tax collection administrators covered up the thefts of a colleague who, when proven guilty, took drugs to try to trick the polygraph test. Vote tally trickery, legal shenanigans, and lock changes on the state capitol buildings' doors resulted in the state actually having simultaneously 3 governors instead of 1 for several weeks. And we were laughing stock of the United States of America. Election law rigging made one rural voter's ballot worth more than 4 city voters' votes over many, many decades. And finally, dead people were so well organized in one county that they voted in alphabetical order in state elections. One state senator, who was a comedian, jokingly introduced a bill to prohibit the deceased from voting after they've been dead for 2 years. He said that's the only way we can stop them from voting. Sound familiar? I can tell you that the American South, Latin America, and the Philippines have a lot in common. And I wish I had more time to expand on this. But I've got to move to chapter 3. Chapter 3. South America. A few years ago, in a certain Latin American country, officials at its major port were astounded to receive dozens of ships delivering fertilizer purchased by the government to be used by the farmers of the country. So much fertilizer arrived that there were not enough warehouses to store it. And yet it kept arriving. Ships were waiting in the harbor with more and more fertilizer. And they couldn't unload it. There was nowhere to unload it. so they were charging the government extra for keeping the fertilizer out at sea. Finally, in desperation, since there were no more storage facilities in the whole country, the remaining fertilizer was unloaded on the shore in open stacks, stacked in the open air near the port, without shelter and without protection. And of course, pretty soon the dry season ended, and the rains came, and you can imagine what happened to the fertilizer. The fertilizer on the top and the outside of the great stacks was mostly washed away by means of the rain. But the vast majority of the fertilizer under the sacks, having been exposed to the extreme humidity and moisture from the rain, became as hard as cement. It turned into cement blocks, and it couldn't be moved. It couldn't be used to fertilize, and it was so bulky, it was extremely heavy to move. The cost of this, of course, was tremendous. The two government officials responsible for ordering fertilizer purchases had ordered enough for several years into the future. They claimed that they had been assured by international fertilizer experts that there was going to be a massive fertilizer shortage, and in the next few years they were only doing their duty to protect the farmers of the country, ordering fertilizer enough so they would have it when it was not available. They didn't think about storing it. The resultant cost to the government, not only for the purchase of unnecessary and later useless fertilizer, but also for its storage and eventual disposition was enormous. The scandal was great. A major investigation was launched. The press went wild. And the two people responsible for buying the fertilizer fled the country into exile. North America. Can something like that happen in North America? In a fairly small southern county in the United States, a trusted purchasing agent had the freedom to make purchases she considered necessary to meet the needs of the county and its school system. She became quite friendly with one of the suppliers of cleaning and maintenance products, and the purchases from that supplier increased to far more than the needs of the county. The county began accumulating all kinds of supplies, in particular, a monumental quantity of rolls of toilet paper, purchased and delivered. As it arrived, county employees were hard-pressed to find places to store it until it was needed. More and more toilet paper kept arriving until it was filling up all the available space in the storerooms, the unused offices, classrooms in the schools, restrooms, closets, even the hallways of the public buildings. Finally, someone realized that something strange was going on, and then the purchasing agent must have some very unusual incentive to be so concerned about cleanliness and to spend so much with one single buyer. And an investigation was called and was carried out. But what happened in both these cases, one in South America, one in North America? The investigations never proved anything conclusively, but it is well known that the individuals who purchased the fertilizer and the toilet paper received kickbacks, commissions on the amounts purchased, a percentage of the amount purchased. So the more they purchased, the more money they made from corrupt suppliers. The South American case was never adequately resolved because the people stayed out of the country until the statute of limitations had passed, which is very typical in Latin America. The North American purchasing agent finally pled guilty when faced with undeniable evidence of quantities purchased sufficient to operate the maintenance and sanitary needs of the county for 4 or 5 years into the future. She turned state's evidence against the supplier who was doing the same thing in many other counties. And in so doing,